is the best podcast on the planet.
I want to start off by asking a very quick question, but hopefully it won't be too intimate or too detailed, I guess is what I was trying to say. Not intimate, don't worry, it's not any of those kind of questions. What I want to know is how important in your life is your social media? You know, the Facebook and the Instagram and the, I don't know, whatever else is out there. What else, okay, so how important is it and what forms of social media do you use?
Holly, you want to go first?
Sure, because it's short and sweet. None.
Okay.
Yay. No, I do. I have a Facebook. I honestly don't remember the password for it, and it was set up under an old email address, which I also don't remember the password for. So if I can never log in again, it's fine with me.
Okay.
So I actually don't utilize it at all. So
okay, so you have a child, and a lot of social media is used to capture and remember memories. You know, things of life that happened. What are you doing in order to capture and store all that?
Phone.
And then
my phone. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
So how do you store all the stuff that you've got? I mean, you're going to run out of memory here at some point. Do you upload it to the cloud?
Yeah, iCloud. And I also share it with family and friends. Like I have specific group messages with
kind of funny. I've never gotten
with my husband's family.
Seth, have you?
No.
And now that I'm saying that, I'm like, I just realized.
No. Nothing.
Start sending more pictures.
I know. She said something about family and friends. And I guess, we've known each other. We've all been, part of the same group for like 10 years now. And
some people
qualify as friends yet.
Some people like pictures of kids, and some people are like, "Why are you sending me this? I've seen your kid once. I don't need to see her again." Or what? You know what I mean?
Why would you assume that that's the way I am about other people's kids?
I don't know. Maybe just experience. Yeah.
All right. Now, Dale, I know that you're very involved in social media. You keep on top of all this.
You gotta, like if you're in radio, you have to at least have some kind of presence. So you gotta do Facebook. Gosh, I can't even think of Facebook.
Twitter.
What's the other one? No, Twitter.
Instagram.
I do Instagram. I do have.
Do the
Twitter,
gram?
I don't.
Have you
use
gotten
Twitter.
on TikTok yet?
No, I'm not going to. I don't like it. And then Parler, I have. That's
I haven't even
know
heard
what
of what that is. Now,
Parler. Can I explain to you what Parler is, or what my definition of Parler, real quick? Twitter is getting very nasty, especially around political times, and especially certain parties are really nasty on Twitter right now. So what they've done, I guess some conservative people done, is started a new social media site called Parler, and it's basically the same thing that Twitter is, but it's more for, and there's not a lot of bad things going on there.
Okay.
There's not people threatening you and calling you this and that. So
not like it is in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking on my social media block here on my phone, all right, because also being in radio, I got to have it. So I have an Imgur account. I have a 9gag account.
Imgur?
Huh?
I've never heard of that. I've heard of it.
It's pretty good. I like it. It can get pretty, political and backstabby, that kind of stuff. I have an Instagram account. I have a Twitter account. I have a Reddit account. And I think I got a couple others I don't keep up with, but all of them are Seth Mila Media, basically for the show that we're doing now, for the radio show that I do in the mornings. So the question is social media important to our social construct as it is now? Is social media really important to our lives? Or is it just kind of like when you go to the buffet, it's the side dish. It's like, I guess I'll have the corn. I don't really like it all that much. What do you think?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, for me, that's me. I'm like, if I was still in radio, I would probably have all those accounts, but it'd be strictly for those things, and I wouldn't share anything personal, or it'd be, and it would be like, now, if I don't have to have it, I do not. But I think for the rest of I'm the weird one, but I think for everybody else, it's becoming truly important for spreading information, for spreading opinions. And I think it's interesting. I know we're going to be talking about, hobbies later, but my hobby lately has been American history. And I've always been kind of a history buff. And so kind of reading some of this stuff about the early times. I know. Yeah, I admit it.
So am I. That's cool. Don't worry about it.
Well, but just kind of learning how they political discourse, especially around the formation of our country. And at the time, the only thing that they had was print, as in newspapers and, pamphlets and those types of things to disseminate information. And so that was big back then. And that was where they had this kind of like Twitter attacking that we have now. It's just a lot faster. And so we could do a lot more of it. And it feels like you could do more damage because of that. So that's my thought. It's not a new thing. It's just a new form.
Exactly.
Of thing. So,
yes and no. And that's what we're going to explore. The premise behind social media isn't new, but how it's being used, that is new. So the next question I have for you, and this is how I wanted to get started, and I kind of got there in a roundabout way. What is the purpose of social media?
Again, I think it's changed a lot from when it first started, because this is what I understand, that Facebook was only college kids used Facebook. Is that right, Holly? And then old people started getting on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My freshman year of college in 2006, they were like, Facebook, you can only get it with a .edu mail account,
Right.
And so coming out of high school, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is better than MySpace. And so I got it. It was, but and it was fun though. Because you had it in your college, so it was like, here is and they had them in groupings of, people in certain colleges and stuff like that. So it was fun in that way. And then it expanded real fast.
Geezers got a hold of it, and then they ruined it, started putting ads on it and
ruined it.
And then tracking people.
See, you're getting into the real purpose of social media. Remember, the question is, what is the purpose of social media?
It's just like the purpose of any corporation or money. It is for revenues, to increase the the money of the stockholders and all that. Like, there is no other, when people try to say there's all these like moral guidelines for these companies, I'm like, that's like the side corn that you're talking about. That's not even like, it's great if it happens, but it's not their primary focus, guys.
Not every corporation is an evil, money-grubbing bastard.
No.
Okay, let's make sure let's not go off the deep end here. Okay.
Well, and that's not what I'm saying either. But you got to remember the primary focus too.
Right.
So.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with making a profit.
No.
There's nothing wrong with making a profit. It's a beautiful thing. It's what you do with it.
That's why you have nonprofits and then you have for-profits. It's for a purpose, but just remember the purpose behind it. So.
And we all know to think about the algorithms and stuff that's involved in it. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, the other day, I did not utter this particular product I was looking for. I've got some tile in my house, so I wanted one of these scrubbers that you can, it's a vacuum scrubber. You put stuff in there, and it makes cleaning the tile easier, the floor easier.
Oh, so I was going to say, because I know you're single.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I got to clean my own floors. So basically, I did
move sideways real fast.
I got to clean my own floors. So anyhow, I go into a place to go look at the price of these. I didn't even say the word vacuum or floor scrub or anything. What shows up on my feed? That kind of like vacuums, floor scrubbers.
Well, it's completely a coincidence.
And but I'm thinking like, there's something on the barcodes or something that it picks up on or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like, I didn't tell anybody I was going to look for those.
You have your location services on?
Yeah.
Probably.
But it was like, but this store sold other things. Best Buy sells computers. It sells TVs. It sells other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But still, it knows.
So
it knows.
The purpose of social media is the same as the purpose for television programs, the purpose for all radio programs, the purpose for, podcasts, the purpose for every visual or digital form of media you can think of. And to some extent, it's the same purpose for print media, but I'm specifically thinking about digital media, radio, television, and anything internet related. The purpose is to keep your attention. Mm-hmm. That's all. So when you're on Facebook and you see an ad for, shall we say, floor scrubbers, if that's
you had to clean your own floors one time too.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you had to clean your own floors.
I've cleaned. Never mind. So the reason that you'll see that is because that's what you're interested in. That's what you're looking for, and so therefore the algorithms that are built into social media. I'm talking specifically about social media now. The algorithms that are built in is it recognizes what is it that keeps your attention. Mm-hmm. So if you're an individual that believes that jets are dumping contrails into the atmosphere that controls your mind, you know what you're going to get a lot of? That kind of material. You're going to start seeing a lot of conspiracy theory material. If you're an individual that thinks parachuting is wonderful, you know what? Oddly enough, you're going to start seeing friend requests from people who also enjoy parachuting.
All this stuff is going to show up on our phones now because you're talking about it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm telling you.
And you know, now that you're talking about all the social media stuff, I do use LinkedIn as a professional site, but I do understand it does the same exact thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
Just for different niche. So
exactly. And this is there were two programs
different what?
that
niche.
Okay.
There are two programs that I watched recently that basically deal with this subject regarding social media. One was called The Great Hack, which I highly recommend. It's on Netflix, and I know some of you are boycotting Netflix for a lot of reasons, and like blah, 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 blah. I hear you, I understand you, but in 2 weeks you're going to forget all about it and you're going to go back to Netflix. So stop being a hypocrite. Sorry. Second of all, the first was The Great Hack, and it talks about the whole scandal between a company called Cambridge Analytica providing information to Facebook. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Check it out. Like we mentioned in a previous podcast, watch it with a grain of salt. You know, don't take it all for gospel. There's some political influencing that goes on in there, but just watch it. And then the other is The Social Dilemma. It's also a documentary style program on Netflix that deals with how do social media platforms keep your attention. And it's fascinating because there are a lot of people that have gone to great lengths to study psychology and sociology and know how our minds work. They know how our brains work. They know what we would become kind of emotionally addicted to. And they use that information to specifically design the content that you're seeing so that it keeps you on the page. Mm-hmm. When I first got started in radio, really starting to use social media, one of the things I noticed is that I would put stuff up on Facebook and not everybody would see it. It's like, look, I got X number of friends and I'm posting this. Doesn't it mean that all of them see what I've posted? Look, no. This is the cutest picture of a cat playing with spaghetti that you have ever seen. Everybody must see it. Why hasn't everybody acknowledged it? Because not everybody cares. Some people hate cats. Well, guess what? If they get a bunch of stuff about cats on their feed, they're not going to keep watching. They're going to go do something else. And Facebook and all the other social media platforms, they can't have that. Mm-hmm. It's called... In the radio business, I'm going to give you a little hint here about how our ratings are determined. It's called time spent listening in the radio business, TSL. And what that means is not only how many people are listening to that particular radio station at that particular time, but how long they are there. Mm-hmm. Why does that matter for television, radio, and all of social media? Advertising. Mm-hmm. That's it right there.
Ad revenue.
Ad revenue, and that's how Facebook and a lot of others make a good portion of their income. The other is providing the information that we voluntarily put up on Facebook and other social media that defines who we are.
So that then they can tailor said advertisements to you.
That, and not just the ads, but they also tailor the content. Mm-hmm. So if you, for example, in Europe, if you were an individual that was kind of, well, I'm not sure if I vote yes or no for Great Britain leaving the European Union, remember, Brexit. Then there was a whole campaign where those that were identifying as undecided, they would get a ton of targeted content, ad revenue, all kinds of stuff to convince them that they should vote for the proposition. And this is where all the dilemma comes in. Is that moral? Is that right? Is that something that we should definitely be aware of? And in the long term, yes, it is something we should be aware of. So your reaction to the information that you're getting, you think you're sitting down to your social media and, I'm going to scroll through. And the next thing you know, everything seems to be the stuff you like. And it's, yeah, I agree. Cupcakes are evil and cupcakes should be destroyed. Everybody knows that coffee cake is what God would be eating, not cupcakes. You start seeing everything that feeds your way of thinking. And now you think everybody thinks that way. How do you feel about that?
To me, it contributes to polarization, which I think is dangerous and contrary to long-term stability in a country such as ours. So that it just pushes everybody out to wherever you're at. If you're in the middle of, if you're middle right or whatever, it's going to push you more far right. If you're middle left, it's going to push you more, far left. Which isn't helpful in any regard. So there's a problem there. But the moral side of it, I see what you're saying, Seth, is kind of like, what do we do about it? Do we stop it? Are we regulating this now? Are we, putting guidelines on these companies, on what algorithms they can use? How do we, where do we go from here at that point, I guess, is all the questions.
Well, first of all, are we going to be able to stop it? No. The genie is out of the bottle. There is no way that you are going to get a society to put away social media and never pick it up again.
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old daughter. Do you have contact on a regular daily basis with individuals that are early 20s, late teens? Do you have contact with those individuals?
Yeah, a little bit.
Dale, do you want to admit that?
Well, we have interns at the radio station, Seth, where you believe it or not.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I remember those days.
You ask them, whoops, we lost Dale. Dale will be back. You ask them, there he is. You ask them at any time, what would you do if you had to put your phone down and not touch it for 30 days? Ask them what their reaction would be. For example, I asked somebody that works in our studio that same question, and the response was, why? Why should I? Okay. Us old geezers, right? We had a life that didn't rely on any of this. None of this was available. The social media was hanging out at the convenience store after high school. That was social media, That's what it was.
It's surprising. It's funny you mentioned that about social media, people giving up social media. I just saw an article that it asked people, would they give up social media or their pet? And you'd be surprised that people are giving up their pet if they had to give up social media. It was like crazy. I would give up social media before I would my pet.
Yeah. I mean, I can't because I pretty much have, but
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, Seth, on the other hand.
Oh, Ellie.
Right, Seth?
Okay. Well, let me ask you, what would they do with my pet?
I don't know.
And for how long do I have to give up the pet? Is it like for 30 days and she goes to a puppy spa?
Might have been 30, 90 days, something like that. I don't know, but I wouldn't do it.
So the issue of, are we going to be able to stop using social media? Absolutely not. Are we going to be able to stop with the content being formulated just for us? Maybe. There may be some legislation that comes in and says, hey, you're going to have to, you can't just be targeting like that. But then you begin stepping on the issue of freedom of speech. You begin manipulating, having government intervention in issues of free enterprise and the free market system. I think the biggest thing that we can do is be aware of it. If you're aware that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and these other social media outlets are not just giving you information, but they're manipulating what you see, when you see it, and how you see it. In other words, manipulating you. Then the best thing that we can do is start demanding that it's being regulated by talking to the sponsors. You see an ad like a Best Buy ad on Dale's social media. You get in touch with a Best Buy corporate headquarters and say, I got news for you. You're advertising and you're part of the manipulation. If you don't stop, I'm going to quit using your product. That makes a difference.
And it's not going to be just Dale doing it. It's not, because that sounds like they're going to be like, really, I don't care, bro.
Right. If it's like one or two people that are like,
crazy. But the thing is, Facebook does give you the option to like opt out of those ads, but then they'll replace it with another ad, some other kind of ad.
So it doesn't even. I don't know. And just long term, you have to think about like, where is the line? Because I'm with you, Seth, too. Like government regulations, it's like careful. You don't want to do too much because then you start stepping on the toes of marketing and those types of things, and then that's kind of dangerous. But then where, like 100 years from now, where does the line? Where do we? Because I think we can cross that line at some point to where we do need to regulate it. Because you know what I'm saying? Like the technology is going to increase and increase and increase. Like, where is that line? Yeah. And I think we still need to realize that that line will eventually come up, even if it's not right now in 2020. Like it will be at some point.
When I think social media is going to become a very integral part in the continuing division of our country, and not just our country, but the division of the world as a whole. Right now, one of the things that you see in this cancel culture is if you don't agree with me, I'm going to boycott you, and I think you should totally, completely be shut down. You have no right to voice your opinion unless you agree with me.
Yeah, which is not helpful. And
no, and it's
not good for any of our society.
So when you start talking
like
about
toddler, I'm sorry, that's
take your ball home. Yeah, if you don't play the way I want to, take the ball home.
That's the whole throw the baby out with bathwater thing. Sorry, I just don't like that.
No. It's like when you start talking about shutting down the freedom of expression of opinion, that, is fascism. When you have the government coming in and shutting down any voice of opposition to their social construct, that is fascism. When you have the police show up and they want to stop rioting and looting, that is not fascism, that's law enforcement. And there is a specific difference. But you're seeing the twisting of reality by saying anytime the man shows up and wants to stop the freedom of expression of protesters, which we were talking of rioting and looting, violence, criminal behavior, then it's labeled as fascism. And that's not it. There's a difference between fascism and law and order. And what you're going to see is more and more of, if you don't agree with the way we have designed you to think, again, keep in mind that the social media begins to influence how you're thinking, influence what you're thinking, push you to that one extreme or the other, okay? It's very possible. Then once you start that division and you start having social media being a part of it, then you start having the ability to take a segment of our society and say, you don't belong. And what we're going to do is we're going to limit your ability to participate in society at all, to the point where it could become extreme, limiting your ability to even purchase the things that are necessary for life: food, clothing, shelter, etc. I know it's an extreme viewpoint.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, okay. But every aspect of this has, everything blooms. And if what I'm saying is, if we're not careful, and if we don't pay attention to this, if you don't start thinking about these things and being aware of them, then this is a path that could happen. I'm not out here saying, oh, this was all going to die. I'm not walking around with a sandwich board yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Not yet.
He said,
but I'm saying this is something that I'm seeing social media give the ability for it to happen at an exponential rate. 20, 30, 40 years ago, that kind of thing. It's like, well, I don't know if that could happen really. But now as we're seeing more social media being integrated, yeah, it's really, really possible. So that's my heavy-handed aspect of it. That's the whole point that I wanted to bring up to this, is that while there's some great things about social media, I've seen some beautiful stories of people helping people and, stuff, really good stuff, right?
Yeah, like raising money for whatever cause or something, and, disseminating information, whatever, it's helping. But
sharing
there's
cat
always
pictures
be,
of playing with pasta.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Sharing people's babies' pictures or not,
Yeah, or not.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted us to take a break at this point and then come back and talk about a totally different fun subject. But the big clock on the wall is telling me that we've got very little time left. So let's just not take a break. Let's just jump into it really quickly. I want to end on a fun note. What is your hobby? What do you enjoy doing? What do you look forward to every day? Dale, you're first.
I've been into bird watching for, no, just kidding. Can you imagine bird watching?
When it comes to a rotisserie chicken, that's the only bird you watch, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with bird watching. I just don't find that for you, Dale. Like, that's just, come on.
See, Dale, you know what? I could just see him now. He's out in a field somewhere with a pair of binoculars, and he's, I
see a yellow belly swan out there.
Yeah, I see that, and that one's over there, and then eventually it's going to be like this. It's going to be like, well, hello.
Wow.
There's a bird I could watch, definitely, baby.
Hey, baby.
Yeah.
That's more, understandable. Okay.
All right, Holly. No, seriously,
well,
Dale.
no, radio. It would have to be radio because that's what I do in my spare time. Like, I really don't
spare time.
Well, I get paid for it now, thanks to.
So it's not a hobby.
Yeah, it is.
It's a paid hobby. There are such things as paid hobbies.
And I don't need to do it. I'm not. It's not something I need to do for income. It's nice to have. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
but it's well, you know how we started. We used to not get paid for it for a long time.
You used to have to pay to do it. Remember?
Yeah.
What kind of a job do you do where you have to pay to be able to do the job? What the heck?
It was an investment you were doing.
Yeah.
So you got to practice.
Yeah. All right. What about
I had
you,
to buy
Miss
a lot of coffee. Well, for me, like I said, I've been really into American history, and so I've been reading a lot, which is really nerdish, but whatever, it's fine. But I loved history in high school. It was my favorite subject, and realizing that the only thing I could do with it as far as a career is teach it, or, that's kind of it. There's a few other things, but pretty unlikely. And so I kind of gave that up, but I still love it. It's an interest of mine, especially in the current times. So that's been fun. And then my husband's been getting into cooking. So we've been into trying new recipes and stuff, which, we do use YouTube. So we're talking about not using social media, but YouTube does the same stuff. We find that too, because as we've been looking for these cooking videos, it's like, try this one out. So,
yeah, but it's more educational. It can show you how to do stuff. So.
Yeah. We made an awesome BLT today, which I know sounds kind of bland, but it was not. It was good. So, very
Bacon,
good.
lettuce, and tomato. What do you do with it?
You don't know. It was good.
Okay,
anyway.
Maybe we don't want to know. That was an approach that I'm just like, okay, I don't need to know what's going on with the tomatoes, okay?
I'll send you the video.
No, I don't. Nope, don't.
She'll send you. Now she's going to send you pictures of it.
The video, it's a recipe video, whatever.
Oh, sure. So. Okay. All righty.
It's good. Anyway, those are our hobbies right now.
It's funny because that's my hobby. I realize that this is totally my hobby, is cooking. Mm-hmm. I've been kind of developing it for a while, and I realized I was getting kind of bored with it. And I read a book by Anthony Bourdain, Kitchen Confidential, And man, it got me fired up about cooking again. And I've been watching this show again on Netflix. Jon Favreau put together a series called The Chef Show. It's amazing.
Watched all of them. They're really cool.
I love it. So,
have you seen the movie it's based on?
No.
Chef. He's in the movie. He stars in the movie.
He refers to it. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's what we're watching tonight. We're going to watch that tonight. So
Netflix.
There's less than a minute left. I would say find a hobby, man. Find yourself a hobby. I've been told that all my life. You ought to have a hobby. You got to.
I heard there's a lobby you could do that. A hobby lobby.
I've heard that. Yeah, I think so too. Get a hobby, because one of the great things in life is to have something to look forward to. There's nothing worse than getting bored and just feeling mundane. Get yourself a hobby. One of the hobbies you should do is watch all of the episodes of the best podcast on the planet. Make sure you listen to them wherever podcasts are sold. And make sure to check us out on our video. If you've got suggestions of something that we should do on this podcast or not do, that's probably more the point. Send it to us, you know where, SethMilaMedia@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you so much. Nest. Yes, we're going to talk about Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. That's all our next show. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again next time. See ya!